Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely.
Awesome. Today we're going to be digging into something I think we can all relate to, which is earning respect.
Oh, yeah.
And not like the demanding kind of respect, right?
Hmm.
But the kind that you earn through your actions and how you show up in the world.
Right. It's more about the genuine kind.
Exactly. And we've got a great story to guide us today
Okay.
about Sarah. She's on this quest to figure out why she feels so overlooked, even though she feels like she's a pretty good person.
Interesting.
Have you ever felt that way? Like you're doing all the right things, but you're still not getting the recognition you feel like you deserve.
Oh, absolutely. It's actually more common than people think.
Yeah.
I mean, deep down, we all want to feel seen and valued, right?
Totally. And for what we contribute too.
Exactly. And Sarah's journey, even though it's fictional, it's a really powerful roadmap, I think, for anyone who's struggling with that feeling.
Right. And so she goes to see this wise woman, Elder Eleanor, and Eleanor throws out this curveball right away. She tells Sarah that respecting yourself is where it all begins, but how do you even do that?
Right.
It just sounds so vague and touchy-feely.
It is a little bit vague, I guess, but I think it's about becoming really intentional about what you allow to grow within you.
Oh, okay.
It's like tending a garden.
Okay.
That's actually the analogy Eleanor uses.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you choose what to plant, what you want to nurture,
Right.
those values and beliefs that are important to you, and then you weed out the negativity.
Okay.
That's kind of like self-respect in action.
I see. So you're kind of curating your inner world.
Exactly. And that's how you start to build that foundation of self-respect.
Okay, that's starting to make a little more sense.
Good.
But the story also mentions that Sarah is initially hesitant to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
She's worried about rocking the boat or being judged.
Yeah, that's understandable.
So how does this inner garden idea actually help her find her voice?
Well, think about it this way. When you're really clear about your values,
Right.
what you stand for, it's easier to express them authentically. And even if people disagree,
Yeah.
that clarity commands respect.
I see.
It's like you're sending the signal. This is me, this is what I believe.
Right.
And people can't help but notice.
So it's not about being loud or aggressive.
Not at all.
It's about confidently owning your perspective,
Yeah.
even if it's in a small way.
Exactly. And it makes me think of that Denzel Washington quote, "Don't aspire to make a living, aspire to make a difference."
Oh, that's a good one.
And I think that's what starts to happen for Sarah.
Okay.
She shifts from seeking approval to contributing something meaningful.
Right.
And that's what gets noticed.
So lesson 1, cultivate that inner garden, then let your voice bloom.
I like that.
What's the next hurdle that she faces?
Oh, the comparison trap.
Uh,
You've all been there.
oh, for sure.
Eleanor uses another great analogy here, comparing Sarah to a unique flower.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's a charming reminder that each of us has our own beauty. But how do we actually shut down that inner voice that's always measuring us against others?
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
It is. Especially these days, with social media constantly showing us everyone's highlight reels, it's like we're almost wired for comparison.
Yeah, totally. So how do we break free?
Well, the key is to shift your focus inward.
Okay.
What are your strengths? What makes you unique?
Mhm.
And instead of seeing other people's success as a threat, you can actually celebrate it
Okay.
while acknowledging your own wins.
So it's not about ignoring the comparison.
No.
It's about reframing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's less about, oh, they're so much better than me, and more like, good for them, and look what I'm doing too.
I like that. But the story also mentions gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
How does that fit in?
Gratitude is like a superpower against comparison.
Okay.
When you take time to appreciate what you do have,
Mhm.
it's much harder to dwell on what you lack.
Yeah.
It helps to rewire your brain to focus on the positive, on your unique path.
Awesome. Okay, so we've tackled speaking our truth and taming the comparison monster.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, this one is about the power of keeping promises.
Okay.
Eleanor compares a trustworthy person to a sturdy bridge.
Okay.
Always there, solid and reliable.
Yeah.
It's a simple idea, but think about it. Who do you respect the most?
Mhm.
I bet it's those people who are consistent, who do what they say they'll do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. That bridge analogy really hits home for me.
Yeah, it does. But the story also acknowledges that things happen, right?
Yeah.
Life throws curveballs.
Of course.
Are we saying that we should never break a promise no matter what?
Not at all. I think it's more about being really thoughtful about the promises that we make in the first place.
Okay.
Knowing that our words carry weight.
Right.
And if something genuinely requires you to break a promise, it's about communicating that honestly and respectfully,
Yeah.
not just ghosting people.
So it's about intentionality and clear communication,
Yes.
which ultimately builds trust. And the story shows how Sarah's consistency in keeping her promises really starts to earn her that deep respect.
Yeah.
But then, we all know setting boundaries can be tough.
Oh, tell me about it.
What does Sarah learn about that from Eleanor?
This one's powerful. Eleanor tells Sarah to think of her home.
Okay.
The walls, the doors, they protect her space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries work the same way. They define what's acceptable and what's not.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
But how do you know when you need stronger boundaries?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because I think a lot of people struggle with this, especially if they're naturally giving or they hate to disappoint others.
Right, and it's definitely a common struggle.
Yeah.
I think some signs might be if you're feeling resentful a lot, or
Okay.
you're constantly saying yes when you really want to say no,
Right.
or if you just feel drained by other people's demands.
So how does Sarah actually learn to navigate this? Because the story kind of hints that she struggles with setting those limits at first.
Yeah, she's definitely a people pleaser at heart. But as she learns from Eleanor, she begins to communicate her needs more clearly and prioritize her own well-being. And guess what? People respect her more, not less.
Because she's showing self-respect, right? It all circles back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, setting boundaries isn't about being selfish or mean.
Right.
It's about protecting your energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you can show up as your best self in all your relationships.
Okay, so we've covered speaking our truth, overcoming comparison, keeping promises, and setting boundaries. That's a lot. What's the final piece of wisdom that Sarah gets from Eleanor?
Well, it's all about continuous growth.
Okay.
Eleanor compares Sarah's life to a book,
Mm-hmm.
with each chapter representing new experiences and opportunities for improvement.
Okay.
And she emphasizes that people respect those who never stop learning and evolving.
So it's like always being open to new chapters.
Exactly. And recognizing that growth is a lifelong journey.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to think about it.
That's a beautiful image. Our lives as books, always adding new chapters.
It is.
But how do we actually translate that into action? You know, it's easy to get overwhelmed thinking about constant self-improvement.
Right. I mean, it doesn't have to be this huge, daunting thing, right?
Right.
Small, consistent efforts are key.
Okay.
Maybe it's learning a new skill,
Mm-hmm.
dedicating time each day to reading,
Okay.
or simply reflecting on your experiences to kind of extract valuable lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what matters is the commitment to growth, not the size of the steps you're taking.
Yeah, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Exactly.
And that ties into the Brian Tracy quote that the story mentions. Personal development is your springboard to personal excellence.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's that investment in ourselves
Yes.
that really speaks volumes.
It does, because when you invest in your growth, you're saying, I'm worth it. I'm committed to becoming my best self.
Right.
And that earns respect, not just demanding it.
Okay, so we've unpacked these 5 powerful lessons.
Mhm.
Speaking our truth, overcoming comparison, keeping promises, setting boundaries, and embracing continuous growth.
Mhm.
It's amazing how they all kind of build on each other,
They do.
like pieces of a puzzle.
They really do. And what I think is so fascinating is how these lessons apply to so many areas of life,
Yeah.
not just earning respect.
Right.
You know, they're fundamental to building healthy relationships, achieving goals, and living a fulfilling life, really.
It's like they're the foundation for pretty much everything.
I think so.
But let's bring it back to respect for a moment.
Okay.
Thinking about Sarah's story, what were some of the biggest aha moments for you?
One that really stands out for me is how Sarah's transformation wasn't about seeking attention or manipulating others.
Right.
It was about genuine inner work, about becoming the kind of person who naturally inspires respect.
Yeah.
And I think it's a powerful reminder that true respect can't be demanded, it has to be earned.
And it all starts with that first lesson.
Right.
Tending to that inner garden.
Exactly.
It's almost like self-respect is the soil from which all other forms of respect grow.
I love that analogy
Yeah.
because without that solid foundation of self-worth, it's hard to authentically embody the other lessons.
Right.
Think about it. How can you effectively set boundaries
Right.
if you don't believe you deserve to have them? Or how can you keep promises if you don't value your own word?
It's like trying to build a house on sand.
Yes.
It just won't stand.
Exactly.
So what are some practical takeaways for our listeners?
Okay.
Let's say someone is really resonating with Sarah's story, feeling overlooked and undervalued.
Mm-hmm.
Where should they start?
Well, I think a great first step is to identify their values.
Okay.
What truly matters to them? What do they want to cultivate in their inner garden? Once they have that clarity, it becomes much easier to align their actions with those values.
So it's about being intentional,
Yes.
making choices that reflect those core beliefs,
Yes.
rather than just reacting to whatever life throws their way.
Exactly.
And remember, it's not about being perfect.
No, not all.
It's about progress,
Yes.
about making those small, consistent efforts to align your actions with your values.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process. Right?
Yeah, totally. What about the comparison trap? That feels like such a universal struggle these days.
It is.
Any advice on how to navigate that?
Well, one powerful technique is cognitive reframing.
Okay.
Instead of getting sucked into those "they're better than me" thoughts,
Right.
try shifting your perspective.
Okay.
Maybe "good for them" is a more helpful response,
Mhm.
followed by "and look what I'm doing too."
Okay.
It's about celebrating other people's successes
Right.
without diminishing your own.
So it's like choosing to focus on abundance rather than scarcity,
Yes.
recognizing that there's enough success to go around.
I love that there's enough to go around, exactly.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of gratitude. Taking time each day to appreciate the good things in your life can significantly reduce those feelings of inadequacy that fuel comparison.
Anyway, that's super helpful for the comparison piece. What about keeping promises?
Yeah.
Any tips on how to be more intentional about that?
Well, one strategy is to be mindful of the commitments you make in the first place.
Okay.
Before you say yes to something, pause and consider. Do I have the time and energy for this?
Right.
Does this align with my priorities? Am I genuinely excited about this? Or am I just trying to please someone else?
So it's about setting ourselves up for success
Yes.
by making promises we can realistically keep.
Exactly. And remember, if something does come up that requires you to break a promise,
Yeah.
communication is key.
Okay.
Be upfront, apologize for the inconvenience, and offer a solution.
Right.
People are more likely to understand and respect you when you're honest and you take responsibility.
It's about preserving that trust that you've built.
Exactly.
Now, boundaries, this is a big one for a lot of people.
Oh.
What are some practical steps someone can take to strengthen their boundaries?
Start by identifying your non-negotiables.
Okay.
What are the things that you absolutely will not compromise on?
Okay.
This could be related to your time, your energy, your values,
Mhm.
or anything else that feels essential to your well-being.
So it's like drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is where I stand.
Exactly. And once you know your limits,
Mm-hmm.
you can communicate them clearly and respectfully.
Right.
This might involve saying no more often, declining invitations,
Wow.
or expressing your needs directly.
Okay. And what about those situations where people push back?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
try to guilt you into crossing those boundaries?
Right. It's important to remember that you have the right to protect yourself.
Okay.
You don't have to explain or justify your decisions.
Mhm.
A simple, "I understand your perspective, but I'm not comfortable with that," can be enough.
Right.
And if someone continues to disrespect your boundaries, it might be time to reevaluate that relationship.
It's a powerful reminder that we teach people how to treat us
Yes.
by setting those boundaries and upholding them.
Exactly. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets.
Right.
It becomes this natural part of how you interact with the world.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here,
Mm-hmm.
but there's one final piece of the puzzle we need to explore.
Yeah.
How do we connect all these lessons to earning that deep, genuine respect we all crave?
Well, that's where the final lesson, continuous growth, comes in.
Okay.
It's the thread that ties everything together.
Yeah.
When we commit to personal development,
Mhm.
to constantly learning and evolving,
Right.
we're essentially saying, I value myself enough to keep growing. And that kind of dedication naturally inspires respect
Okay.
in ourselves and in others.
It's like we become a living embodiment of these lessons,
Yeah.
radiating that respect outward.
Exactly. And it's not about reaching some imaginary finish line.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey. It's about recognizing that we're all works in progress, and that's perfectly okay.
We've talked about a lot of practical steps,
We have.
but what's the biggest takeaway?
Yeah.
The core message that listeners should walk away with?
I think it's this. Genuine respect can't be demanded, it has to be earned.
Yeah.
And the most powerful way to earn it is by focusing on our own growth,
Mm-hmm.
by becoming the kind of person who naturally inspires respect.
Yeah.
It's an inside-out process.
Right.
And it starts with that first lesson, tending to our own inner garden.
That's a powerful way to sum it up.
Thanks.
So what's one small step our listeners can take today to start embodying these lessons? What action can they take to start earning that respect?
That's a great question. I'd say Start by identifying one area where you want to grow.
Okay.
Maybe it's speaking up more authentically, setting a boundary in a challenging relationship,
Okay.
or committing to learning a new skill,
Right.
and then take one small, concrete action in that direction. It doesn't have to be a huge leap, just a small step forward on that journey of personal growth.
I love that. Small steps taken consistently
Yes,
lead to big changes.
they do.
It's really amazing how those small actions can create this ripple effect, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of everyone around us.
True.
As we wrap up our deep dive on earning respect, I'm curious, what's one thing that really stuck with you from Sarah's story?
For me, it's how beautifully the 5 lessons all connect.
Okay.
It's not enough to just speak your truth if you're constantly comparing yourself to others.
Right?
And setting boundaries is so much easier when you genuinely respect your own needs and values. They all work together like a system.
It's like each lesson reinforces the others,
Yes.
creating a sort of upward spiral.
Yeah.
The more you practice one, the easier it becomes to embody the rest.
Exactly. And what's so powerful is that this isn't about manipulating people into respecting us.
Right.
It's about aligning our actions with our values, showing up authentically and becoming the kind of person who naturally inspires respect.
It's about becoming worthy of respect, not demanding it.
Precisely. And that's what's so inspiring about Sarah's journey.
Yeah.
She didn't set out to become like the most respected person in the village or anything.
Right.
She focused on living in alignment with those lessons. The respect was a natural outcome of her growth.
It's a beautiful illustration of that saying, what you seek is seeking you.
Oh, I like that.
When we embody respect,
Yeah.
we attract it into our lives.
It's true.
And that brings us back to where we started, the importance of self-respect.
Right.
It's the foundation
It is.
upon which everything else is built.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one final thought-provoking question our listeners can ponder?
Okay.
Something to really spark their own journey towards earning respect.
Here's one. If you could choose one of these lessons to focus on for the next week,
Okay.
which would it be, and what's one small step you can take today to put it into action?
I love that challenge.
Good.
It's a great reminder that even those small actions taken consistently
Yes.
can lead to really profound changes.
Mm,
And remember, this journey of earning respect is ongoing.
it is.
It's not about reaching some imaginary finish line.
Right.
It's about embracing the process of growth and becoming the best version of ourselves.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah,
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and are feeling inspired to put these lessons into practice.
absolutely.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.